What's good? Welcome back to the Loophole channel. In today's video, I'm going to be breaking down a beat in the style of The Weeknd's latest album, Dawn FM. So when I made this beat, I was mainly inspired by songs like How Do I Make You Love Me and Take My Breath, some of the more upbeat songs from the album, in this kind of city / synth pop style that makes up the majority of the first half of the album. So let's get into it. So the track's around 120 BPM, which is the speed that you want to be working at for this kind of style. So I went from a simple A minor chord to an E flat 7th chord, down to a D minor chord, and then I did a similar thing for the second half. I just really switched up the last section, that was it. It's all in the key of A minor. To be honest, I make the majority of my beats in A minor and then I might transpose it afterwards just because I know it's all the white keys. It's really that simple. So it sounds like this. So the main synth is called Tyler. It's from the Dawn Bank, which by the way expires tomorrow at midnight. So if you haven't picked it up, you might want to check that out. But without any effects, it sounds like this. So a bit brighter. So the main things I did to this sound was add delay, reverb, and chorus, and then added some sidechain as well. So you can see the reverbs are in here. Used vintage verb for this 80s feel. I used the chorus, Dimension D, which I explained in the Tory Lanez video a few videos back, is one of my main cheat codes to making 80s sounding music. And then I added some sidechain from Shape of Box. So then to add some more movement, I added a couple of arps. That's literally just EQ'd, take out the lows, take out some of the highs because I think they were clashing, and then the second arp sounds like this. That's just got a heavy sidechain on it for some more movement. Without the effects, it sounds like this. So I'm pretty sure the next step I took was adding a kick and some snares. All the drums again are from this Dawn pack. Almost every single sound from this beat is in this Dawn pack. So it sounds like this. So just a simple 4 on the floor type pattern. I then added another snare just for a bit of accent. Then I added some more synth layers. I use this vocal synth 80s, which kind of emulates a choir, but you can tell it's quite synthetic. It's just to set an atmosphere, sounds like this. With that effect, sounds like this. So I just made it sound a bit more background. That was mainly with the phaser and the reverb. So all of these together sound like this. And then added a couple of hi-hats, both from the kit again. Simple 2-step here, and then the main hat has a bit more of a groove. To then make the drums hit a bit harder, I added an open hat on every kick and every snare. That sounds like this. Without it sounds like this. So it doesn't hit anywhere near as hard without it. Added a clap for some atmosphere. You can hear it's got a lot of reverb and then a sidechain on it. I'm pretty sure the next thing I did was add a bass just to give it some more presence. You know, a track like this wouldn't be much without a bass sound. So I used the preset Every Angel Is Terrifying. Just added an EQ on it, used this preset from the Arturia EQ Citral, took out some of the highs. Without the effects, it sounds like this. So it's just a bit of a bass boost and reduce some of the highs. So then that sounds like this. So all of that sounds great in terms of building a foundation, but I felt like I needed to make a catchy synth line like they do in How Do I Make You Love Me. So you can hear it's really recognizable and distinctive. So what I did as my version of that was I used the Synth stab preset and created this kind of catchy lead line. Without any effects, it sounds like this. So I just filled it out a bit, made it more spacious, made it sit in the mix a bit better. So then all of the elements we've seen so far sounds like this. Now you'll also find in How Do I Make You Love Me, it's got this kind of ARP slash bass sound. So I wanted to try and recreate that with one of the presets that I made. It's called Set Me Free, and it sounds like this. So you can hear these elements here are giving the ARP feel, and then it's also got like a pulsing bass sound that comes from this. So I alternated between this bass and this bass for different parts of the song. So using the bass ARP instead of this bass sounds like this. So that is the majority of the first half of the song. Now let's jump into the playlist and we can see what else I've added. Immediately here you can see I've added a hat loop, just to add a bit more pace. It's from one of the Oliver kits, and I think I've added some automation to the pitch. I don't know if that, okay, that's through Shaperbox and Looperator. So without the effects, it sounds like this. So it pans a bit. I've taken out some of the lows and I've added some effects. I've also added a Perc loop from Ty Leon's kit that he dropped on our site a few months ago. Sounds like this. It just adds a bit more bounce, you know, so both of them together sounds like this. With the other hats, it sounds like this. So there's a lot of movement, a lot of groove that goes on with those. Now I've also added another drum loop. This is a shaker loop, which I've chopped up a bit. Sounds like this. So I've just added some effects to make it sit better in the mix. Also added a looperator just for some stutters and things like that. So that with the hi-hat loop and the other Perc loop sounds like this. With all the other rhythm. Everything together. So down here I've added a riser that's also in the kit. It's called Sonar. It's just this kind of very, very high frequency FX sounding thing. And you can see this is the first time I brought in the bass ARP. So it gives it a bit more movement even though there's no drums, which is kind of perfect for a bridge section. So the second hook sounds like this. It's very, very bright. I've added in another octave into the main synth. So that sounds like this. Makes it sound very, very full. Yeah, see that just sounds So full, so nice. And then you can see we're slowing down here. Into something completely different. So for the second half of the song, I've kept the majority of the same sounds and the same patterns in terms of the drums, but it's mainly just the chords and the basses that have changed. So let's listen to the first section after the switch up. So instead of being this kind of chord progression with the synth, I've just gone for a very simple. It's literally just a fifth apart, just to set the mood, just give it a bit of atmosphere. Then I've added in another Perc loop here. That's also from Tyler Young's kit that he dropped on our site, so check it out if you haven't. It's a really sick kit to use. I also recorded myself breathing in, which is quite subtle in the mix, but it was inspired by the end of How Do I Make You Love Me, where you can hear him breathing in the background, but it just adds a bit of bounce on top of the rest of it. So without it sounds like this. With it sounds like this. I don't know how I feel about hearing it by itself, but within the mix of all the other sounds, trust me, it fits. It adds a lot to the song. So everything but the bass sounds like this. Now the bass is quite interesting. It kind of goes, it steps up and down like this. Which is quite unconventional. It's not your typical bass line. But the bass is called For Your Love. It's also from the kit, and all I've done to it is added a wave shaper. Without the wave shaper, it wouldn't hit quite as hard. So with the kick and the snare, it sounds like this. While I was cooking up the second half of this track, I got in a call with Stanley. He's featured on the channel before, crazy musician, and we worked on it together to kind of elevate it even more. So he added a guitar track that sounds like this. Just adds a bit more groove. It does have some effects on it. Without the effects, it sounds like this. So very dry. The effects do help. I didn't want to add too many other synths because I didn't want to push my CPU to its limit. So what I did was just add some effects onto some synths I already used. So for example, the main synth from the first part of the song, I used it to make this. But that sounded a bit too kind of grand. I wanted to make it a bit more low key and also make it a bit more weird sounding. So what I did was add some filter modulation in an Arturia plugin, which sounds like this. It's the Acid Blade preset in the Filter M12. So it really changes up the sound a lot. It's obviously the same notes, but just very filtered out, and it gives it a bit more of a rhythm. So with the bass together, it sounds like this. Then I also added a vocal synth, which again, I could have just left it like that, but I wanted to add something to make it a bit more interesting. It's the Synth Lab preset in Effect Rack that sounds like this. So all of that together sounds like this. Yeah, that bounce is unique. I guess this is a good thing about experimenting and not really putting limits on what you want to create. I really mess with it. It's not something that I'd probably send out to a lot of people, but I mess with how it sounds. For the bridge of this section, Joe laid down a bass line. It's from the Power Bass, also in the Dawn Bank. This preset here. So in context, sounds like this. yeah, that's how the full track was made. I was really happy with how it turned out personally, and it was nice to make something that was out of my comfort zone. I was really inspired by what I heard on the album, so I thought I'd, you know, create a sound bank and create a couple of tracks to go along with it. If you enjoyed the video, it would be amazing if you could support us by subscribing, and also let us know down in the comments what you want to see from us in future videos. But yeah, until next time.